everybody. Welcome back. F330 is in session again. Did you all catch the Rolling Stones last night? It's pretty cool. Remotely playing one of their great songs. Well, we're doing session number 8, YouTube session number 8 for our F330 continuing education project here. And we're turning a corner today. We take up the final unit of the class. This is called Perspectives. And Perspectives is a 2-week project. And so this week we're going back to the Sibundoy Valley, and I'm going to have a chance to bring some of my friends back into our conversation. I'm very excited about that. And then next week, in this unit of Perspectives, we will take up traditional ecological knowledge, known as TEK, traditional ecological knowledge. And so we'll be looking at how some of the environmental studies work kind of intersects a little bit with some of the things that we've been talking about. So yeah, we're into the final unit of the class. Before we leave performing interventions behind, I hope you all enjoyed the selection, the professor's choice of the YouTube videos that you people found. They were all quite good. I selected some that I found especially evocative, and I hope you enjoyed those. And in fact, I want to ask you, when you respond to this video, why don't you just let me know which of those 6 of the professor's choice YouTube clips you found most fascinating. So I'd be interested to have a little survey here about that. So send me that, your choice, 1 or 2 of your favorites from those selections. Okay, well, we're leaving behind the DIRT project. We were able to sample some of the chapters and 2 or 3 of the topics that are featured in the Diverse Environmentalism's book, which doesn't exist yet, unfortunately, but you all have had a chance to preview it. And we go into a couple of papers, work in progress, that I'm sharing with you, and this will be interesting also for me to see how you respond, helpful as I continue to think through these 2 papers that I'm sharing with you. And of course we'll get in a few minutes to the one for today, and we'll turn to content momentarily. But as always, a couple of administrative things that I think are worth paying attention to, and it's going to be helpful to make sure everyone is thinking along the same lines here. Well, of course, the big thing to keep in mind is the final original research project. We're closing in on that magical day, that moment when you'll be making available to me these products from the work that you've been doing on your own original research. Just as a reminder, the presentation, the sort of 5-minute flash visions that we were planning to do in the classroom, those are going to be due as of Friday, May 1, so Friday the 1st of May. I want you to get those to me, and as we discussed in the previous YouTube session, I'm thinking of 2 possible formats for these. One would be, as we talked originally, the PowerPoint. So if that's how you would like to do it, go ahead and prepare a PowerPoint and upload that in the appropriate place on Canvas. But I'm thinking that, well, you could also perform your 5-minute performance, your 5-minute presentation, and record that and upload that video. So that's another way to do it. So either of those 2 ways, I think, will be adequate for me to get a feel for how you've been able to accomplish that assignment. And then, of course, the last thing to do on the final original research project is the paper. And the paper, something on the order of 10 pages, could be a little bit more. The paper will be due on Wednesday, May 6th. Wednesday, May 6th. I hopefully will have a chance to react to what I see on your presentation and give you a few pointers that might be helpful as you wrap up and finalize your research paper, those of you who don't get them done ahead of the deadline. Okay, so, well, that's a big deal, and we've been anticipating this for, well, basically forever, and now we're getting pretty close to the reality of it. So as you're gaining access to this video, I expect that your thought piece number 10 is arriving, and that'll give me a chance to see how you interacted, how you connected with some of the key concepts and the readings that we worked with in the unit on performing interventions. Okay, well, I think that catches us up on administrative pieces, so let me turn to some points of content, and of course here we are in week 13, the first of our two weeks on perspectives, and this one I call Sibundoy Eco-Sovereignty, and the eco-sovereign part will come out more in the Carlos Tamabioy paper that you'll be looking at starting Wednesday. You may have already looked at it and seen what I do there, but we're getting started on this unit this week, week 13, with my paper on animal agency in Sibundoy eco-spirituality. And animal agency is an interesting problem. I'm working with a number of colleagues in folklore on this kind of, sometimes they say more than human, or they say other than human, but we've talked about it a little bit in our semester together, looking at such ideas as perspectivism, this notion that the living world is full of creatures that have their own subjectivity, and that this relationship between different subjectivities is really how we should be thinking ecologically. So it's a very significant trend in humanities and social science scholarship lately. Sometimes they call it the ontological turn, ontological being having to do with being, with different forms of life. So that's happening, and I'm trying to address it in the article in this work in progress that you've had a chance to look at. And essentially what I'm trying to do in this piece, I'm trying to listen to Sibundoy voices. I'm trying to listen to the voices of the people that I'm working with in the Sibundoy Valley, down there in the southwestern corner of Colombia, as you know, the Ingas and the Kamsas. So I'm trying to hear their voices. So the article is full of storytellers and full of their stories, and I like that. And so when you read the article, I want you to enjoy those. I've, in most cases, put the original language. I don't expect very many of you know Kamsa. Not very many people outside of the Sibundoy Valley know Kamsa, or Inga, which is a Quechua dialect. More people know Quechua around the world. But you have your English translation there as well, and you can see how these stories unfold. So I've got 6 storytellers. I've got Taita Bautista Wahibioy and his daughter Maria, and also his son Alberto, and I was very connected to that family. And these are people who are, these are meaningful people to me, people that I've sustained a friendship with over the years. But also the two Chikunques, Mariano and Estanislao, wonderful storytellers in the Sibundoy Valley there. And as well, Maria, well, I talked about Maria, she has the one complete narrative in there. The other of those 9 narratives, hers is complete about the wild pigs, and then the others are excerpts. And then Francisco Tandioy, my compadre. So these are, it's kind of fun for me to bring forward these friends of mine, these people that I've worked with over the years, and then to really feature their voices and bring out some of the storytelling, the narratives, the mythic narratives that they have performed. Now, when we think about perspectivism and what I'm trying to do here, you can see that I'm embracing perspectivism, but I'm also pulling back from it a little bit. I guess you could say I'm sounding a kind of a cautionary note here. On the positive side, as we sort of survey Sibundoy mythology, we have plenty of reasons to enjoy the advantages of perspectivist thinking. For example, the wonderful stories about how fire and corn come to the people through the intervention of these animal partners. Okay, so the weasel, who's a kind of tricky character, but she goes to the culture hero Wangatsmuna, and she makes him laugh. And while he's distracted, she snatches with her tail some charred sticks in the fire and takes them out and brings them to the people. Also, then, the mouse is the one who comes in a similar way, is able to distract Wangatsmuna and bring a little bit of seed corn back to the people. And it's really fire and corn that make Sibundoy civilization possible. So this is a very good sort of illustration of perspectivism, of these different subjectivities, these different types of living creatures, all involved in a very sociable and let's say interconnected situation. But I do say that we need to look at some limiting and contrapuntal tendencies in Sibundoy mythology. So limiting and contrapuntal tendencies that kind of work against fully embracing a perspectivist approach. And these come up, of course, we've talked before a little bit, the animal suitors, a set of mythic narratives where animal people arrive and essentially try to win their way into a family, and the family notices that they're a little bit odd. They still have some remnant of their animal characteristics, and then in the end, the human family rejects the animal suitor. The animal suitor is chased away, but some kind of spiritual power that animal suitor brought to the people is lost. So there's I use the term paradise forestalled. These animal suitors were capable of bringing tremendous knowledge and power into the human community, but they had to be rejected because that spiritual power would have overwhelmed, let's say, all of the sort of stable features of society. And so that's the kind of, if you wish, moral philosophy that we find in those myths about the animal suitors. And then there's the remarkable myth of Wangatsmuna when he blows the horn, and that really striking mythological moment when this trumpet or this horn-like instrument that was given to Wangatsmuna by the thunder deity, at a moment in time he blows that, and as the myth says then, that from that time on animals remained animals and people remained people. Even the monkeys who tried to sort of impress Wangatsmuna and say, look, we can swing on a vine, he then sort of in a sense cursed them or pronounced that forever they would swing on the vine and they would not be part of the human community. So we see these contrapuntal tendencies. So at the same time that we can embrace perspectivism as something that helps us understand what we're dealing with, we also see some contrary tendencies. And I even want to, I end up with, not only are boundaries established between the different, types of living creatures, but also there's a kind of an ethnocentric component in this mythology, because there's the dispersal of the heathen savages. These terms, Yemba in Kamsa is the term for the heathen, the naked lowland people, and then in Inga it's Auka, which also carries the meaning of an unbaptized person, and that's where the kind of a Christian element comes in, as you know from our work with Mountain of the Condor, this sort of interesting way that Christianity filters in but still becomes part of a larger indigenous system. Well, those are some of the things I wanted to bring out and make sure that they stand out in your minds as you consider this essay that I'm working on animal agency. I'm going to finish with this thought. I bring in the work of Todd Swanson, who's a friend and a colleague that he worked with, working on the Quechua in lowland Ecuador, and they have this really interesting account of how the Quechua there, they warn against this problem of sliding across a species barrier. And I have to say, when I reread that just the last couple of days, I thought about this novel coronavirus. I mean, it's really strange how mythological thinking keeps popping up and in strange ways addressing things that happen in real life. but this, because that's what the darn virus has done, right? It's sort of slid across species barriers and is creating all kinds of difficulties now that it's finding its way at home in the human population. Well, I don't mean to end on a note of concern, but that is a thing. But it is very interesting, I think, that some of the things we're looking at mythologically in the metaphorical world, the imaginative world of mythology, have really interesting ways of connecting to our lived experience and maybe helping us sort of think through some of the dilemmas and some of the issues and problems that confront us. And that's one of the theories about mythology, that what it does is it helps people think through their lives in a very imaginative arena and come to a better understanding of possibilities and realities that they confront in their own lives. Okay, people, I think that these are the main things I wanted to say. Another thought piece will be coming your way, but for the meanwhile, let's continue to focus on Sibundoy eco-sovereignty and this eco-spiritual system that we find in the Sibundoy Valley, which is a representative of many, many local and indigenous groups that have these kinds of belief systems. Okay, I'll leave it there. I'll be happy to see your comments that come in from this YouTube session number 8. If you can, please send me your vote for your favorite of the 6 Prof Choice YouTube clips from Performing Interventions, and we'll carry on and keep after this and move on to completion. Meanwhile, everybody stay safe, be happy as possible, and I'll be in touch with you in a couple of days. Okay, bye now.